make sure we, Allison, we are recording, so that's good. And yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's great to see some familiar names and faces coming in. We may have a few others joining us as our event and broadcast unfold today. We're so grateful to have this time with all of you, and looking forward to hearing from this incredible panel that we've got assembled here for all of you today. So I'm just letting folks get settled in here before we kind of get rolling with things. And you guys are seeing, are you guys seeing the full screen on the slide deck? Everything looks good? That's a yes, maybe. You seeing the full screen? Somebody?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. I didn't have my visuals up there. Just want to make sure. Okay, thank you, Corwin and Caroline, for confirming in the chat. I've got too many screens going, so that's the world we're living in these days. But again, I want to just welcome everyone. And this is the second session. My name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the managers here. I manage the addictions department in our American Indian Alaska Native HTC. And with me in collaboration is my colleague, Dr. Allison Banks. She is our prevention manager in our center. She manages the prevention department. And as I said, we've got a wonderful panel joining us, as well as probably one of the best moderators you could ever ask for in my colleague and friend, Mr. Ray Daw. So Ray, great to have you on and here, and we've got a really fantastic event planned. So I'm just going to run through a couple of introductory slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, one of our panelists, to get us started off in a good way. And then we'll have the panelists introduce themselves. So I hope you can sit back and close any other programs you've got going, and just really be with us in the next couple of hours. We're going to try and keep this interactive and open. And we've got a couple of polling questions too, just to kind of get a sense of what you all are interested in and what you hope to gain or will gain from attending today's session. So let me run through just a few introductory slides, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to get us started off. So again, I want to welcome you all to session 2 of honoring our Native veterans past, present, and future. And we've got, as I mentioned, a really wonderful panel joining us for this second session. As most of you know, this event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We are located at the University of Iowa at the College of Public Health. And we are part of a national HTC network made up of 10 regional centers, a national Hispanic and Latinx center, as well as a national coordinating office at the University of Missouri. Here, I've got too many screens to know everybody this morning, so. As most of you know by now, this project is supported and funded by SANSA, and the content of today's presentation is developed by the presenters, and the opinions expressed today do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of SANSA HHS or the National American Indian Alaska Native HTC. Oh boy, there we go. Got it. Again, I know many of you are familiar with this, but following today's event, we will reach out to you via email, and we will include any slides in a PDF form that may be applicable to the presentation. And we'll also provide a link to the recording for today's event. All of our events, or I should say, almost all of our events are recorded and stored in our Native Center for Behavioral Health YouTube archive. And if you're interested, we can post the link to that archive in the chat today. It's got almost every event that we've done, particularly over the past 2.5 years during the course of the pandemic, when a lot of our events, most of our events went virtual. So, and then lastly, we'll include a link to the survey. And I did post that in this slide, as you can see. We'll include this link as well as a QR code in the follow-up email, and you can, if you can, fill out that brief survey. The survey is really important to us. It allows us to get some feedback from you, and it's a great way to show our funders the kind of work that we're doing. It's interesting too, we've added some short answer components to the survey, so you can really, in your own words, express any feedback that you would like. And we really value that more than some of the more standard yes or no or a Likert scale questions. So we'd love to get in your own words some feedback. This survey is not mandatory. You can skip any questions you would like, and it cannot be linked to you in any way personally. So if you have any questions about that, reach out to Allison or I at the center, and we're happy to explain further the nature of that survey. But we would really love to hear back from you. It's important to us. It helps us do our job better, know what we're doing well, and where we need to improve. So, and then lastly, today's event will also, you'll be eligible to receive 2 CEUs for today's event. And you can request those at the time that you receive the follow-up email. You must request the CEUs through the follow-up email in order to be eligible to receive those. And there's about a 4 to 6 week turnaround on those CEUs, unless you're under a real time crunch. But just be patient with us. We are a little behind on getting those out, but be patient and you will receive your CEUs. Those are NADAC approved, and you can apply those to any credentialing or licensure body within your respective state. So really happy to have everybody here. I'm going to now go to our next slide, which is our land acknowledgement slide, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Dara Jefferson to read the land acknowledgement. So, Dara.
Good afternoon. So we wanted to, even though we're meeting virtually, we still wanted to take the time to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the Indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. So if you would please take a few moments to read this land acknowledgement. It was created by 3 of our former team members, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Sean Bear. Thank you.
Thank you, Dara, for introducing that. And so without further ado, I want to relinquish the floor to Jeff to get us started off in the right way. And once Jeff has concluded, then I'll turn it over to Ray, and we can introduce our panelists for the day. So Jeff, you have the floor. Thank you again, everyone, for being here with us today.
Uvululatak, everybody. Inupextang kang lewichamaktung na imnalu English at kang lewichak. Itratong paunimik kak itrat anaka. Atatalu nakbasluk na chovernetugut kuya nakpok ita lutin tabat tu mana ita tataw iniksu siriak lu nuluk na itsuk imna sibun in nga ukalum kapin yak stunlu taiku. It is an honor for those who attend and coordinate this session. May we be open-minded as we give thanks to our ancestors and culture to continue to become diligent, persevering, and persistent like a warrior. Our service is a selfless privilege that represent our people and country in which we stood for. May those in attendance and who contribute to this session be blessed. Kuyana po, imnalu uvulu lautak chali. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. Namaste. Ray, I'm going to relinquish the floor to you. We'll
Okay.
introduce our panelists.
Good. Guyana, Jeff, for your blessing and your kind words, brother. Let's go ahead and go through our introductions. My formal introduction will include that I am a member of the my mother's clan are Kea'ani people, Tarawing House. My father's clan, or paternal clans, are Tlazatlana, or Many Goats people. My paternal grandfathers are Tsinagini, Blackstreet people. My paternal grandfathers are Twitachini, or Bitterwater people, originally from southern Navajo, the chapter community called Hawk, Arizona. We have a community of about 1,400 people, and with about 120 veterans in our community. So we have a lot of veterans that I come from through lineage and family. So I'll do that. Let's go ahead and go to the next one, Steve. Well, before we go on, I'd like to mention that we asked the panelists to provide us a photo of the time when they were in active duty. So consequently, you're seeing these pictures that were kindly provided by our panelists. Tanapa Natani is I'm going to go ahead and do her introduction because she's still working on logging into the session. She lives in a real remote area, and her connection goes up and down as a result. But Tanapa Natani is a 5th generation weaver. You see her picture here. She's served in the U.S. Navy. She's of the Many Hogan clan and born for Coyote Pass people. When she introduces her clans to us, she resides in the area of North Navajo called Table Mesa. It's a real beautiful area, actually right down the road, literally from Shiprock, which is a landmark in our homeland. So she gets to see Shiprock a lot. And then she's a weaver, an excellent weaver. In fact, she's nationally known for the weaving work she does. And I've had the honor of seeing some of her work. And I've gotten to meet her mother also. She's also somebody is muting. But so she comes from a long line of weavers, a very accomplished weaver. She's a trainer, teacher, and culture bearer for our folks in Navajo. She does all her yarning and everything from scratch, basically. So she knows how to do that. She knows many of the natural dyes in our lands to be able to color the wool that comes from the sheep that she raises herself. She's a rancher as well. So she has, as a rancher, she has horses and sheep, and has a special garment that she's designed, which is highly sought after. The Tanafa shawl. She also works on a number of things. She's done work with a number of museums across the country I'm aware of in displaying Navajo arts in the weaving area. She's a 4-year veteran and active duty Native, and then also, or active duty Navy, as well as 9 years reserve duty. And this picture of Tanapa. She'll probably join us as we move along, but want to make sure that we acknowledge her presence with us today. Next slide, please. Che.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I also like to introduce myself. I am Navajo, Jane. My first clan is near the water people, Tohan. Although my second clan, my father's clan is Tobai, edge of water people, specifically the killdeer bird branch. My maternal grandparents are Towering House, Kiani, and then my paternal, my father's father is not Dantanet, touching the corn people at the Red Street running into water people. I am Navajo. I'm from Crystal, New Mexico. I was raised and born on the reservation. Like I said, I did join the Marine Corps back in 1990. Did 4 years stint there, but right now I work for the BIA as a regional archaeologist. I'm also acting as the Federal Indian Minerals Office Director in Farmington, New Mexico. I help Navajo people that are Latis to sell and develop their fluid minerals such as oil and gas and so forth. So that's basically who I am right now. I have different experiences, not just in archaeology, but in community development, oil and gas, behavioral health, and so forth. So that's a lot of things I do. On my personal level, I do several things traditionally. I do ceremony, what we call a Najin, or the enemy way ceremony. Been doing that for close to 10 years. From a mentor of mine, that was my older brother. He now passed 9 years ago. But that's who I am. I have a wife and I have 5 children. We have 5 children. We live in Crystal, New Mexico. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Next. I'm so accustomed to speaking Navajo that I almost told Steve Nanasha, which means next one. So sorry, Steve. Go ahead, John.
Good morning again, everybody. I'm from the White Mountain tribe here in Alaska. In Inukbek, we are the Nachaveremut people, and the regional area where I'm from is Koirak, and I'd say Koirak Amutunga in the general area. My parents come from White Mountain, and I have my grandparents come from White Mountain and up in Kikitagarakamut area, which is another portion of Northwest Alaska. And I'm married, and we have 3 kids. I'm retired Sergeant First Class, and I've had some deployments. I've worked in a variety of jobs, and I've continuously worked in behavioral health, and currently I'm attending school to earn my bachelor's, and so I'm working part-time, and I'm attending school at the same time full-time. I've been working veterans issues for a good number of years, starting in 2006 and 2007, and I have not stopped working for veterans issues since then. I enjoy hunting and fishing, camping, and I like some challenges, so I've traveled from one area of Alaska to another area to see if I can accomplish it by snow machine and by a 20-foot boat. I love to travel, on extreme remote areas of Alaska. And thank you for this opportunity.
When Jeff speaks of remote areas, he's talking about real rocky seas and going through really rough terrain over covering hundreds of miles. So it's not a minor thing in my mind, brother, that you accomplished outdoorsman and also an accomplished hunter for your family, for your people. Guyana. Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
Good morning, Kwatsi Sehupa Sawajamshe. My name is Dave Natsaway. The name that was given to me by my elders is Kwesiwa, which is has to do with the way the parrot looks when parrots start to take flight. My clan, on my mother's side is Parrot Clan, and on my father's side is Little Bear Clan. So currently, I work as a consultant for TLPI and ATTC, and was formerly out at the Pueblo of Laguna as an addiction counselor, doing individual counseling, facilitating recovery groups, MRT groups, working with the Healing to Wellness Court. Still kind of involved in that. Every once in a while, I get, I'll call them up and let them know that I want to come check them out. So they're always happy to have me out there. So the thing about the Healing to Wellness Court program out there is that, they always say, once you're a part of it, you're always a part of it. So that's nice. And a couple weeks ago, I called one of the counselors out there, Lori Vallejos. I asked her, just to give her a heads up that I wanted to come out, check out the group, see what's happening in group. And she was happy to have me come out. So I get out there, and she got called on a crisis call, and I walked in the door, and the secretary in front, she goes, "Okay, here's what's going on. You're going to run all the groups today." And so it was fun. I get to jump back in there, and it had been a little while since COVID. I haven't been out there since COVID. So yeah, I jumped back into group just like I left it yesterday. So it was nice to be a part of that. Jump back in there again and meet the new clients. So before that, I was in the Navy. I did a little over 20 years in the Navy as a Navy musician, and did about half of my career overseas, 7th Fleet in Japan, and Pacific Fleet in Hawaii, and got to travel a lot and experience a lot of different cultures, a lot of different indigenous cultures, and pick up as a musician. I was always interested in the music side of everything. So, I got to meet a lot of local musicians and pick up some of the instruments that they use, and I'll be, we'll have a presentation here coming up in a couple of weeks. The music is healing, and we'll pull out some of those instruments and demonstrate, the healing power of music, and that's one of the other things I did for the Pueblo is that they asked me if I could do a Music is Healing presentation. So I was able to put something together for that, you know, and the one we're going to do coming up is going to be more, it's going to be expanded, you know. The challenges are going to be to do it over Zoom, you know. It's most effective live, but I think we can make it work. So I just want to express that, you know, I'm happy to be here and share the space with all you people and the other veterans, and thanks to Steve and Ray for putting this all together. Thanks.
We've got word too that Tanaba is trying to get logged in, so we're working to get her on, Ray, just so you know.
Hope, my name is Dara Jefferson. I am Northern Arapaho and Meskwaki, originally from Wind River, so that's where I was raised. Joined the Army when I was 17. Same as Dave, I was stationed overseas. I was stationed in Germany, so I got to do a lot of traveling across Europe, got to bring my mom over there. Transitioned out in Fort Hood, Texas. Went to college, and then ever since graduating with my bachelor's, I've been working with tribal people. Started with a caseworker, came over here to Iowa and worked with the Human Resources Department for a bit before I went into the victim advocacy. It's kind of where I found my passion and what I do with my life basically now. I have a husband and 4 kids. Currently have a little relative with us right now that was placed with us. So we have 5 kids currently, I suppose. And my dog, who I had to put in the bathroom because she was barking at everything. Thank you, Steve and Allison and Ray, for planning this. I am looking forward to hearing what all the other veterans are going to say. I think you will learn more about me as we go through the questions. But everything is in my bio. The work that I do a lot of community service work. So I'm always volunteering my time to the school, to the walk and runs, to the powwows, wherever they need volunteers. I'm usually one of the first ones to run out there and do it. Keeps me busy, gets me, you know, I get to see people, the survivors that I worked with and the ones that I will work with get to know me that way. So I think that's important. But yeah, looking forward to this presentation. Thank you.
Just a reminder, as I'm going to take these slides down, but just a reminder, our 3rd and final session will air January 5th, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. So if you want more information on that, just let us know in the chat and we'll be sure and send you the links to the registration for that.
Yeah. I also want to acknowledge that the panelists were involved in setting up this session in particular. So I want to send appreciation to Dara and the others, Dave, for joining us and then setting up this session. Jeff also. So thank you for that. Go ahead and do your polling question.
Let's see. I don't do a lot of polling questions, but I'm going to try one here. Let's see if this is either going to work or it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this. And this is just this is a polling question to the group, and we'll kind of see this. It'll make sense once I launch it here. Let's see if this will go. Okay. Do we see that question? Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, we do.
Great.
So it's like a multiple choice test, huh?
Yeah, it's
Gosh,
there's no right or wrong answers in this test, though. So
my anxiety just went up when I saw that.
there's no right or wrong. Yeah, this is just for us to get a sense of kind of why you're here today. So take a few moments and we'll see.
Well, that's what one of my college professors said. There are no wrong answers, and ended up getting a failing grade. So we submit.
Okay, we've got just about everyone chiming in here. A couple more. Let's wait here. Looks like overwhelmingly right now, folks are here to learn more about Native veteran issues. So we're just at about 91% reporting on this poll. So that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good snapshot of why folks are here. So that's really helpful. Thank you for participating in that poll.
Are you able
Okay,
to show the results?
yeah, let's see. You guys can't see the results.
Oh, no.
Okay, let's see if I end this poll. What happens?
Can you see the results in terms of percentages, though?
Yeah, we
see
had
it.
about 60. Are they showing?
I see him.
No.
Yeah, we had about 67% of you saying you were here to learn more about Native veteran issues. See if I can post those.
Or put it in chat.
Yeah, I'll see if I can do that, Ray. Why don't you let me work on that? I'll see if I can get those results up. And,
Okay. Good deal.
And in the meantime, I think we are going to try. Ray, you've got some questions for the panel.
Yeah. Well, we have some questions for the panelists, and we'll go in the order that we introduced ourselves. Okay. And in terms of getting your responses to this first question, something that comes up and not often talked about is the role of parents and friends as we transition back. So the first question is, what role have your parents or friends had in transitioning to civilian life? That's our first question. So go ahead and take that on. Jeff, want to lead it?
Okay. I had with the parents, they have given me a real good insight on my growth development throughout my young years, and also my grandmother had instilled a lot of our culture and language, and knowing our language and our culture, and living our culture had provided me a real great transition into the U.S. Army. And so my parents and my grandma and had instilled a lot of this preparation before I joined the service, and it was something that was instilled in me at a young age. At the age of 4, my grandmother did take me to the seasonal camp, and I've gone to the camp for a good number of years growing up, and so being out there, fish camp, hunting camp, was instilled in me at a young age, and also that brought a lot of good experience going into the Army life. So it was a pretty significant what they've taught me.
Thank you. And others that are on the call, if you have questions or thoughts or comments as our panelists are speaking, feel free to put them in chat. At the end of the time we have today, we'll leave opportunity for have a discussion also. But if you have things that you want to point out, please put those comments in chat, and we'll move on to Robert Chehada.
So what was the question? I kind of got a piece of it here, so.
Okay.
I put it in the chat too,
Did it?
for everyone.
Yeah, the question, Che, is what role have your parents or friends had in transitioning back to civilian life?
Well, from a traditional Navajo perspective, and a lot of the things that my parents did, or at least my father, before even entering into the Marine Corps, there was, like anything else, you decide what you want to do.
Mhm.
If you decide to go to college or to trade school, traditionally, at least my father, and he was a real traditional Navajo. He would have Hatafis or medicine men that would do prayers for protection and for success. Also, but since it was the military, that didn't change. However, there was kind of a little different thing there when I transitioned into military life, was that he did request to have a protection prayer and also be successful about it and come back home safely. Eagle, meaning that you come back as you go in, fully physically, mentally, and psychologically, fully as you went in, and then come back out as you were. Now, when I got back out of the military, when I was discharged, one of the things is that here, this is kind of a little different thing, is that in Navajo, you experience certain things in the military that you don't experience in civilian life. So what happens traditionally was that he said, meaning that you should get a ceremony to get rid of all the bad things that you have experienced. And that's really the blackening ceremony. And then back after the blackening ceremony is to get rid of all the ghosts that you have experienced, the bad stuff you had, any trauma that you have experienced in the military. It doesn't have to be, I guess, like combat and stuff like that, but you had experienced something that most people will never experience. So, but he did get a blackening ceremony done for me. He did an enemy way ceremony. And then after that, did a blessing way ceremony. It was kind of a different thing because I'm a twin. My twin brother, he didn't go to the military. He went to Dartmouth, Harvard, and those guys, that places and stuff. But he had to come along and participate in the ceremony that I had done. So basically, that's what my father did. And friends, relatives, close relatives, and friends that I have become close to really help with those ceremonies and so forth. And somebody like my oldest brother, that was my mentor, I was an apprentice to him. He really went out of his way and asked me to become his apprentice, and so forth. And that's how I came. And that's how they really helped me out in transitioning into civilian life. My older sisters and brothers said, yeah, your military life is over now. You need to move forward. And, they gave me good advice that you need to go to college, find a trade, get a career and move forward. All right, that's it.
Real rich description, Che, of how your traditions played a part of your healing. Otto, also your transition into the military way of life. So really rich description of that. Thank you for that, Chief. Yeah, well, next we'll ask David to describe his response to that question we have.
Okay, so my parents, my family members, they were always a part of my military career. You know, they were always there for support, things I needed. You know, I could always talk to them throughout my whole time in the military. But as far as the transition goes, and this is something that I did a presentation for TLPI about the transition of the family into civilian life. So the transition period starts well before the member gets out of the service. I mean, there's a lot of preparation that has to be done, and it lasts long into civilian life because just the adjustment can take a lot of time. But just some of the things that the family will experience, and I think this is, you know, pretty much for most military members, there's some point in their career where they experience homelessness, you know, because when you're in transition, when you check out of your duty station and you're not yet to your new duty station, you have no established home. You have no place, you know, and I can remember lots of times, you know, living out of a hotel or living out of our car, you know, with the kids while we're in transition, and then staying with family members, you know. So that was a big part of when I transitioned was I didn't, when I retired and moved to New Mexico, I didn't have a home yet. And so it was 5 days on the road, traveling to my parents' house, dropping off the kids, and then driving here to Albuquerque with my wife, and being here, staying at the Air Force Base, and spending a week searching for a home, you know, to purchase a home. And then once that was settled, then going back, picking up the kids. And then we had a whole 25 days of downtime before we could move in. So we have 5 more days of no place to live. So we drove to Texas to my wife's parents' house, and we stayed. They let us stay there for a month before we could actually move into our house in Albuquerque. So, you know, that support in that transition is important. And and also being a musician, when I got out, I had, you know, I wasn't working as a musician like I was in the Navy. So I had a lot of friends, a lot of veteran Navy musicians, or a lot of veteran musicians from other services as well, that were finding me work. You know, they were giving me phone calls, and so I could get out and keep working as a musician, you know. When I finally got settled here into New Mexico, my brothers down at the Pueblo Laguna and my uncle, they as well, they took me in to the Kiva, and because there's a lot of things that you pick up in your time in the service, you know, and so they took me in to get initiated in the Kiva so I could cleanse myself of some of the things, the negative energy, the negative things that I picked up in my time in service, those things that can hang around and haunt you, you know, and bring me in and get me more involved traditionally. So I have that deep sense of prayer and healing with me all the time, you know, because once you're blessed like that, you know, you carry that with you all the time, you know, and you can always rely on that as a source of healing. So and the same, it helps out, you know, with my family too, with my wife and my kids, you know, and I always, you know, remind them that whenever, you know, they've all moved on and doing their own things now, but, you know, I always remind them that they always have that with them, you know, when times get hard, you know, there's things that happen, and that they always have that prayer and that sense of healing that they can turn to when they need to, you know, because like military families, you spend all your time together, you know, in traveling from place to place and living in all these different places and experiencing all these different things and cultures and everything. And then all of a sudden when it ends, you know, and the kids grow up and everybody starts going their own way, there's a huge sense of emptiness, you know, because you think about the really the adventures that you've had, you know, and so it's nice, you know, when we all can get together. I don't think since I've been out I've been out for 10 years, so probably in the last 8 or so years, we have not been in the same house together at the same time. So this year, this Christmas, we're finally all going to be here at the same time. So that'll be nice. It'll be crowded because they're all grown now, you know, but it'll be fun. And I'm sure we'll just pick up like they were still little, you know, so it'll be fun. All right, thanks.
Interesting, Dave, and appreciate your comments also. As my Che was talking and earlier, I reflected on a comment that's often used, and well, at least on the Army side, which is short timing. You know, that kind of marks the beginning of a transition mindset. Dara, can you share your story, please?
So my parents, let's see. So I think they played a large part in my time in the service, actually. Since I joined, you know, when I was 17, they didn't really want me to join. And I graduated in January, and I was going to be 18 in July. So then when they were, you know, pushing me to not join, I just said, well, you can either, you know, sign that paper for me to join now, or you can, you know, I'll do it myself in July. So they went ahead and signed it. But ever since that, I guess they knew I was serious about it. So ever since that, they started to organize the ceremonies that were going to take place during the time that I was going in. So they made sure, you know, I had a ceremony before I went in, you know, just for protection and making sure I, you know, asked that I come home. And then, you know, and it was really, I thought really, oh, I don't know the word for it. But like they, you know, they made songs for me, and they sung songs for me, and they sent me out in a good way. And then so every time I would take leave and go home, they would have ceremonies for me with the same roadmap. And then they had, when I got out of the military, they had another ceremony, you know, just to welcome me back home. And then invited a lot of other veterans from my reservation. And then at the end, or during sunrise, you know, we're able to go out and raise the flag together, kind of like bring me into their fold, I would say. But yeah, I mean, my mom went to go visit me. I think she went over there about 3 times, and every time she went over there, I was able to, you know, take her somewhere, travel, took her to Holland, took her to Italy, stuff like that. Stuff that I think, you know, she wouldn't have been able to experience otherwise. And then, so yeah, I think what Dave was talking about too is like that period where you don't have any place to live. So we were in Fort Hood, Texas with our kids. And then we got out and we were staying in a hotel for about 2 weeks while we transitioned out of, you know, getting all the paperwork signed and everything, and keys given back to them and everything like that. And then we had to travel. We traveled with 2 cars to my parents' house, which is when we had my last ceremony. And we continued on to California, where we lived for a while. And then my in-laws played a big role in transitioning from military life into college life, because I mean, they took care of our kids. They made sure that we didn't have to worry about that, or we started to try to figure out, you know, how to enroll in school and whatever else, trying to find a place to live, you know, just everything. they're a huge part in that. And as far as friends, I think staying in touch with my military friends really helped. I mean, because you go home and nobody has that experience. Nobody knew what you went through. Nobody, nobody was there with you. And then so your military friends, I think, are that connection, because we've all experienced some of the same things, similar things, been the same places. And then so I still keep in contact with a lot of them today. I had one come just this past June. She drove all the way from Maine and came to visit me while she was doing one of her road trips. And so I thought that was really, really cool that she made sure that she added me to her routes. And I hadn't seen her since 2002 when we lived in Germany. So that was a nice time to see her. But yeah, I mean, my parents, they raised me in with a lot of traditional background. So when I was in medicine and stuff like that, pray with me over the phone. And being there for me through that whole phase, and then still being there for me today in that same way, I think really helps.
I'm really, really pleased at your story, Darren, and all of you. We're blessed to have another panelist join us, Tanapa. As you're aware, Tanapa Yatehwe, I read your bio earlier to the people that are here with us, and we're going to put you in the hot spot where to add on to the bio that you turned in to us. Anything you want to add on to that? Ado, the question, we'll get into the question that we're talking about right now, right after you do supplement to the bio that you turned in. You have the floor, Tanapa. You're muted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Okay. Hello, everyone. I apologize for coming in delayed. I have a difficulty with my internet connection here, and I also had to get on a phone call for my granddaughter. So I'm Tanapa Natani, and I joined the Navy in 1985. Like Dar, I was also young when I joined the military. I had just turned 18, and my mother didn't want me to join, but my father did. My father was a great supporter for me, and I think intuitively he knew that I would be able to handle it, perhaps. And I think he also wanted more of an opportunity for me, because being here on the Navajo Nation in the Fauquion area, my opportunities were minimal. I know I wasn't ready to go to college yet. So I joined the military after high school, and as soon as it was confirmed that I would be leaving within 3 weeks, my parents and my grandmother also, I was blessed to still have my grandmother at that time. And they planned for a blessing way ceremony for me. And out here on the Navajo, our ceremonies, our blessing way ceremonies are, some of them, well, each of them, they're specific. So for the people who join the military, The Blessing Way is geared, concentrated with protection songs and I believe warrior songs. So it was very powerful, that ceremony for me. And I, when I was 18, I was somewhat mature, but I also had a lot of growing up to do and learning. And I didn't realize the impact of the ceremony, the how strong it was until later in hindsight when I think about some of my experiences. I was, during the time I was in, I joined in 1985 to 1989. I was in during peacetime in my area. I should say, though, there was war happening overseas, but I was on a ship. I was on the USS Prairie, and we were stationed in Long Beach. So the ship I was on, the main mission of it was to repair other ships. So we went on a Western Pacific cruise, and we met up with different like battleships, destroyers. I can't remember just the names that we knew them. Gator ships, carriers, even some carriers, and provided support to them, repair support. So being away from home, leaving the desert, and going onto the ocean was very different for me. It was, and then also when we come into port, it's nice to be on land. And however, we are among different people, going into Japan, going into Hong Kong, going into the Philippines, to Thailand. The different cultures are so lively, so strong that it brings a sadness. It would bring a sadness to you. To me, it did. I remembered my homeland. But I also remembered what my late father would tell me to pray with the corn pollen. It's emotional, when I think about it, because I was very young, and my uncles also, I guess now when as a grandmother, when I think about it, I feel their love for me. I feel their love. I see the great love they had for me. And my uncle, he was also a veteran, and he was in the Navy also. And I had two uncles who were in the Navy, and I had two other uncles who were in the Army. So my one uncle that was in the Navy, it seems like he offered a lot of support, and he would remind me that the ocean was my mother. And he reminded me to always pray and give offering to the ocean. So yeah, it was the ceremonies is what helped me, even during times of experiencing racism on the ship. So yeah, so that is what I can share with in terms of like leaving home, having the Blessing Way, the warrior blessing way for me. And then when I got done with my enlistment, it was so important for me to come home and to kind of, I think it's like part of that ceremony. You come home and they somewhat finish it for you because you've come back into a non-military life. And just as Dara said, we you know, I didn't, my military experience was during peacetime. So, you know, I had other, just being away from home and living that regimented lifestyle. I think at a young age, it's a big impact upon you. And when I see and I meet another shipmate or another person who was actually ship with me, have a bond, a bond that just a lifelong bond. I reacquainted with a gal that I knew when I was in boot camp, and she was from Croix, Berlin. I reacquainted with her after 20 years, and that was still a bond between us. And she lives in Florida now, and we're going to plan to meet.
Seems
I
like
ended up joining the reserve. Yeah, the Naval Reserve, shortly after I got out of active duty. And I continued with the reserve duty. And it was very different, you know. It was very different, and I enjoyed it. And I did have to do active duty. I had to commit to like 2 weeks of active duty a year and meet every month and just be prepared. Just be prepared to be activated again. And when I became a mother, my my enlistment with the reserves was coming. My contract was coming to an end. But when I became a mother, I could not see myself being affiliated even as a reservist with the military anymore. And that's the time I decided to leave the military.
Thank you, Kanapa. We've heard some really strong stories from our panelists about how their family members, particularly parents, played a very strong role in guiding them into a life in the military, and also how their parents were very important towards helping them transition and guide them from military life to civilian life, and continuing to provide that grounding to them. And I think that, and then what does that mean? I think is that if, as clinicians, we're connecting with veterans, it becomes a real valuable way to look into how veterans that are coming into our offices are grounded and relating with their parents, transitioning to the military, but also transitioning out. And sometimes we have veterans who leave the military with parts of the family system not there, particularly during the pandemic. A lot of grandparents and parents have passed. and that can be an additional burden. But as clinically and from prevention perspective, I think these are valuable lessons that we're hearing from our panelists to guide us further into the work that we want to do. And Steve has put up the results from the first poll question that he offered us. You can see where 67% of us here responded that we wanted to learn more about veterans issues. And I think we're hearing a veterans issue that's really critical right now, which is the role of family and friends and transitioning into, but also out of the military life. And to learn more about wellness and healing and Native veterans. And the third thing was to share experiences of Native veterans. I think these are really good responses from all of you. With that, we'll transition to the next question. And it goes back to, I think, the second focus question that was brought up as a strong area of interest. The second question is going to be, tell us about the social activities that sustain your well-being. What do you do in your life today that helps you be grounded and positive thinking, moving forward? So that would be a second question that we'd like to present to you. Okay, on this question. Tell us
Okay.
about social activities that
Are
sustain your
you
well-being.
able?
Like, we can see you.
Okay. Ashtitz. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
enjoy.
Well, one of my daily practices is prayer, giving offerings. It is hard to do that, to be disciplined to do that, and but prayer is one of the ways I find where I get grounded. I also, in addition to prayers, I also like to be outdoors. I like to be outdoors, looking at plants, looking at the land. And right now, one of my jobs is I'm a rancher. So I have sheep, and a lot of my time I do have to be outdoors, especially in the summertime. And what I discovered about being in the mountains with the sheep is there is something very special, mystical, powerful about the mountains, but the forests. And I think it might be that, well, I personally believe they're very lively. So, and we as traditional Dene people, traditional Navajo people, there's offerings that are given to the trees, to the plants for different purposes. So in that sense, my knowledge, I know that they're very alive. So just walking among them and admiring the beauty, admiring the environment. That's something that grounds me and that helps me appreciate my surrounding. Another thing that I feel that is very helpful to me is being creative, and creative with fiber arts, creative with wool, with and finding different crafts, different ways to weave. My main work is a weaver, so I'm fascinated not only with our way of weaving, but many other cultures. And that's medicine. It's also a medicine for me. So even a spindle. I have the Navajo spindle, which is maybe about a yard, 3 feet. It can be 3 feet in length, the shaft, or it can be a foot and a half. And there's other spindles, drop spindles, where that have a hook on it and you can walk with it. So working with that fiber, feeling the softness of the silk and making strands of fiber, that's also very soothing to me, very relaxing, very relaxing to me. Yeah, so yeah, and so I think that and just recently also being a student to my granddaughter, she's getting to be 2 years old. Sometimes I forget to listen to her and have her be my teacher. And I'm finding a lot of enjoyment in that. That's very grounding to me. And something very simple like that, even teaching her, and she's only 2 years old, but my goodness, our 2-year-olds are so intelligent, so smart. And another thing that I also like is I'm beginning to like is cooking, learning about the traditional foods, the different ways to prepare blue corn. That blue corn is one of our staples, and the yellow corn and the white corn. So traditional learning. I'm 55 years old, and I wasn't too fortunate to meet my paternal grandfather, who was a practitioner, who was a man that helped people heal with his prayers. And so he knew a lot of songs, and I believe I know a lot of songs, but they're sleeping. So I'm trying to learn them in meeting people in my community and around the Navajo Nation that know those songs, know that way of life. So that also helps me to be grounded. And that itself is very, it's a little hard, but there's a lot of beauty in it. There's a lot of comfort in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you become before I wanted to learn certain songs, certain stories, but it was hard for me. But now it seems like it's a little bit easier for me. So maybe I'm ready to learn them. So that's also a very special comfort that I like.
Sure. Yeah. We'll ask Jeff to take this question and describe how your social activities sustain your well-being. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, yes. Well, during my transition, I, just right after my transition, at first I did not want to hear any news. I didn't want to be part of any social event. And, I even refused to go hunting, and, I refused to subsistence hunting, but I did some fishing. But during my transition, I was put into a place where, my experience was needed. And you know, the community I moved to had some traumatic events, and unfortunately, there was no, the first responders only were the health aides, and so there was no police officer there. So, you know, unfortunately for me, but you know, fortunately for the community, one of the health aides was my is my sister-in-law. And of course, you know, when there was traumatic, you know, when they experienced some traumatic events and phone calls, she did call and ask me to assist. And so, first-handedly during my transition, I did assist in responding and helping the first responders. And not only did I assist in responding to the traumatic events, but also I did some follow-up with the first responders and the family, you know, who experienced the traumatic events. And so, you know, it was natural for me to, you know, follow up with these traumatic events, by performing talking circles, and if needed, healing circles. So, you know, the culture I grew up in, if there was something we need to get done right or completed right or resolved right, you know, we had some talking circles and we had some healing circles. So I did grow up, around that culture. And so what I'm trying to say is that during my transition, that really sustained me in my well-being, as helping others dealing with traumatic events had allowed me to, to focus on helping others and realizing, the positive results of, helping first responders and the family. And so that was kind of a healing process for myself. And so, after the transition, today, I do have daily morning prayer as well. First with myself, and secondly with my son, before he goes to school, because we're both the early birds. I also try to be outdoors as much as I can, whether we're camping or, during the winter traveling. And during some of the downtime in between of not traveling and camping, and I do domestic duties on winterizing the house, snow removal, mending my summer gear, whether I need to fix a tear in the tent or I need to mend the nets that we use. So I do turn around and keep myself busy, to sustain my well-being. And also, as for the social activities, we do have family gatherings as much as we can. And, especially when we have a loss in the family, we do have a lot of family together. And, we have a potluck, and the potluck is not in the community center or, or a community hall, but we do have it here in this place. And, it is to honor the loss of a loved one. And, of course, we keep in touch with the family, with reaching out to other families as well, for those who may need some subsistence foods. We're fortunate to be blessed with as much as, we can, to even give some to a few of our subsistence foods to some other families. So the social activities here in Alaska is, we're always meeting somewhere, we're always doing something together, we're always, having some sort of a gathering, whether it be, like I said, lost of a loved one or during the holidays, and we do invites, and that not only helps other families, but it does make us feel a lot better, knowing that we made a real big difference in helping the family. So it was like a phase of first the transition, then after the transition, and then something very continuous to daily morning prayer. And so it's the activities is really now ongoing throughout the year.
Mhm. Jeff, can you do us a favor? And how long are your nets?
Well, it depends on what you use. It depends on, of course, the state law. In certain areas, it varies from the urban areas to the subsistence areas. So
Mhm.
in the rural areas, I usually look and use for a 50 fathom net, and it depends on what species of fish you want to get. It depends on the mesh size,
Mhm.
and whether you're gonna set the net under the ice, or if you're gonna, if it's gonna be for summer use and fall use.
Mhm.
So the net varies from
Mhm.
season through the season.
Mhm.
Mostly here in the urban areas, so we have to use dip nets, and they're just a 3 foot diameter, or they could be
Mhm.
pretty close to a 5 foot diameter,
Mhm.
depending on what area you go to and
Mhm.
what you want to fish for. Um, and of course, I've grown up in the rural areas, and so this is my first experience with the urban areas and adjusting to the subsistence lifestyle here.
Mhm. Mhm. So what's the longest net you work with?
50 fathoms.
Okay.
That's
Yeah. I wanted to share this because, when my brother Jeff talks about working on nets, there are a whole variety of nets that are embodied within being prepared for fishing as a subsistence lifestyle and social activity. Because as Jeff mentioned, when fishing happens, it happens for other family members too. So Guyana, I wanted to kind of develop that theme around nets not being a simple thing that you use up in your neck of the woods further. Thank you.
yes, and not only nets, but we do have fish traps too, and so it takes a substantial amount of time to either mend a
Mhm.
net or even make a fish trap. So and then maintaining the fish trap, it takes a substantial amount of time. So usually by springtime, I try to get as much as we can done to prepare for the summer
Mhm.
subsistence lifestyle.
Yeah, I know it's one of my Che Roberts dreams to go up there and do some fishing. So maybe you'll get a chance to take my Che up there, Jeff, and show him how a 50 Phantom net works. With that, we'll ask my Che Dave Robert to take the question on for us. What social activities have sustained your well-being?
That's a loaded question there, Che.
Okay.
What social activity that sustained my the way I think about this is when I joined the military, and I joined the military, was actually looking for a job. But
Mhm.
when as soon as I got out, it kind of dawned on me that um, that military service was really to serve um, Navajo people, and the general people in general, United States in general, but to provide service to the United States and mainly the Navajo people here in my thoughts. But when I got out, the way I thought about this is really to not stop my service, but not as a, as a Marine Corps or a jarhead, but really as a Navajo. How do I continue that service as an extension of being a veteran? So so it kind of led me into different social arenas. One of them was hunting with my brothers again, and those are social events. There are ceremonies attached to it, but then really getting involved with local people, mostly through just social activities, really through ceremonies, and then learning all a bunch of different stuff. And when I did get married, my wife had different interests, and we tended a lot of that stuff, and hunting and ceremonies, learning new things, just really getting involved with traditional practices, also traditional games like the shoe game, Kesh J. That's one of the things that I learned prior to. My father was really into that stuff, and and we continued a lot of those traditional practices outside of after I came back from the Marine Corps. In addition to that, I really got some new interest, really met new people, and then just family stuff, going fishing, camping, herding sheep, chasing cows. We do run quite a bit of cattle in the Trishka Mountains with my family. So we have we do have sheep and stuff like that. But really, family was really a big part of it, being involved in everything. And, dealing with, local politics. I mean, that's some that I dealt with a little bit. I did get involved with the local veterans organization in our chapter, and they made me a commander there and stuff like that, just really helping other people. So it was really the interest of involving myself in activities that really continue that service of serving people and and trying to not focus on me. Family is important, very, very important. It is the core of Navajo life. But really focus, but as far as activities, social activities, really activities that really assisted and continued the veteran, at least from my perspective, to provide that service and help community members, family members, close relatives, activities that really involve that relationship of how you're related, not only to your immediate family, but your extended family, and also to the community. So those are the social events that really sustain my thoughts, and which ultimately led me into being apprenticed to the ceremonies that I perform now, because all my mentors are not on. They're all a philosophy that my father always said is that you're gonna one day just realize that when you become a grandparent, it's not about you anymore. It's about Navajo people. It's about your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and in general Navajo people. Think about 7 generations down the road. He said, always you're going to start, your mind's going to change. The way you plan is going to change when you become a parent, a grandparent, a great grandparent. You're going to start thinking about several generations down the road of your children, our great grandchildren, and Navajo people are going to be 7 generations down the road. That's how your forefathers taught us to think. So, and a lot of it through social interaction and different
Hmm.
activities. That's all.
Mhm. Yeah, it's true. Uh, yeah, thank you. Thank you for the story. Yeah. And we'll ask Dara to help us develop her story around this question of how your social life um, grounds you and your well-being.
Well, I'm actually kind of a hermit unless I'm out volunteering. Spend a lot of my time, learning how to. Well, I always say learning how to bead and sew, because there's always a different technique that you can do. I'm trying different techniques. Like right now, I'm beading a men's grass, the regalia. Um, Tried it before, but I got a little bit farther along this time. But like I moved here to Iowa among the Meskwaki people in 2011. And since then, just been trying to learn about more about this community because I grew up Arapaho. That's where my dad is from. And so he raised us over there. And then so coming over here and having to learn how to be Meskwaki. But I think it's a responsibility, trying to learn the responsibilities of the Meskwaki woman with the beading and the sewing and weaving. I weave belts. Trying to learn, trying to grow. When I go home and visit my parents, I like to visit the mountains. I spend the majority of my time there, and they know that. They know that when I go home there, let's go to the mountains. So we spend about 80% of our time there, and primarily to pick medicine and just to be there. And but I also like to introduce my kids to that because they were born in Germany when I was stationed in Germany. And then they lived in California, and then we moved here in Iowa, so they were never able to have that. What I grew up with, growing up in the mountains, growing up on my reservation, growing up with my, everything that I was surrounded with. So I always try to get them up there, so at least they know, what the mountains are like. And I think Tanaba was talking about it, but like, yeah, it's powerful being up there, and that beauty, but it's peaceful at the same time. But yeah, those are the things I like to do. Yeah, that's what it is.
It's kind of nice to hear a socialized hermit describe her life in yeah, kind of relate to that. And particularly during these times, I think it's good to hear your stories as we're moving through another phase of pandemic. All of us are. And our veterans in particular, I think, experience serious, severe isolation because of this. And I know in my home community with our vets, we try to pull them into the things we do. And Robert does a great job of that. In Robert's family, they volunteer to do pancake breakfasts on Veterans Day as part of their socialization. But we tend to think that being around people, sometimes we think that being around people is the only way to socialize. And I think I heard you talking about describe really well how our surroundings is a way to we socialize also. That now the mountains are our guardians, our parents, and grandparents. Water, trees fulfill that role also. So we teach that we're never alone, we're isolated. So thank you for your story, Dara. It's really beautiful. Dave, your turn, brother, to share with us your story.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of share that introverted lifestyle. But I like getting out and doing things too. As a growing up as a musician and being and performing concerts and different shows and stuff, being introverted gives you a time to decompress, you know, so you're back by yourself and not amongst a bunch of people, you know. So I think for me, you know, I did have struggles with alcohol while I was in the military. And a little more than halfway through my career, I did go to the rehab center up in Naval Station, Great Lakes. And it was talking with my counselors up there and trying to readjust and evaluate, you know, my future. There was this thought in my mind that perhaps I could become an addictions counselor and go back to my tribal community in Laguna, the Pueblo of Laguna, and work for the Pueblo. And this is just a thought that I had while I was there. And then I served out the rest of my time, and I really worked on myself. I started drawing from activities that I did when I was a kid. You know, it's one of the things that I felt helped me in that building that strong, sober life. And so when that interest in addictions counseling, you know, kind of stuck with me, and I started helping out sailors here and there. And, you know, because a lot of them were afraid to get help, because in the military, you know, if you go to rehab, it's thought of as a punishment, you know, and it's because a lot of the people that have to go to rehab are people that have gotten in trouble, you know, underage drinking, or did something while they were intoxicated, or, you know, missed their assigned duties, you know, or something. So I started helping out these sailors and, you know, ensuring them that it's not a punishment, you know, and when you leave rehab in the military, it's the letter that they send out actually goes in the awards section of your record. And so, you know, when I started making plans for this, you know, as I got closer and closer to retirement, and that's part of that transition, you know, it took that transition into that thought process started years before I got out. And so when I retired from the Navy, I retired on January 1st of 2012. On January 3rd, I was in school, starting to study psychology so I could get, you know, so I could work towards that. And that was up in Washington State. And then we ended up moving to Albuquerque here. And then I enrolled at Central New Mexico College, and then moved over to UNM and discovered that the addiction counseling field, you know, at UNM, studying there is, you know, it's like the mecca of treatment models, you know. And I had no idea that's where a lot of these treatment models came from. So when it came time to start looking at where I was going to do an internship, that thought process of maybe I could work at Laguna and help my people, you know. So I just called out there to behavioral health and talked with Chris Pacheco, that was running the behavioral health program. And she was happy to have me come out as an intern. I met with her, you know, we talked, and it's kind of funny. She goes, you know, you kind of fit that demographic of when the tribe starts looking at these men to start taking over different roles in the tribe, they're about your age, you know. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I did my internship there and started working with all the groups in the Healing to Wellness Court. And then, you know, when I was done, she offered me employment, you know. So that thought process that I had years and years and years ago, you know, when I was in rehab, actually came to fruition, you know. And I had no idea it was going to work like that, you know. And I had no idea that, you know, these things were going to present themselves, they just did, but all along, and so I've remained active. And so in using that knowledge that I've gained, I'm always in contact with other veterans and always in contact with the guys that I served with that are still in the military and are now in these big leadership roles, and they have a lot of subordinates, and they know that they know my experience and the schooling that I got. So I get calls all the time and they say, hey, I have this sailor that's going through this. Is there anything that I could look out for or anything that I could do? Because they want to approach it from the helping perspective rather than go straight into the military perspective, which is mainly punitive, so they want to try to head that off before it has to reach the punitive stage, so just one of the other things that I talk with when I'm talking with clients is when they're trying to reorganize their life, they have to draw from things that they did when they were young, before all the chaos started happening. They have to draw from things that made them happy, things that were real rewarding. So for me, the music aspect, I always grew up in music, so that's one of the things when I got out was staying involved in music, teaching music, playing music, listening to music, especially, and then when I was young, I always played baseball. So I coached my son's baseball team, and then later went and got trained as a professional umpire, when I could not find umpires for my kids' team. No parent wants to umpire a baseball game. So I told my other coaches, I said, I will go get trained as an umpire and I will be your umpire. So I do that. It's just something that I draw from my childhood that I really love to do. Another thing is being outdoors, and hiking. I was almost every day I'm up at the Sandia foothills walking those trails, and that's where I go up to make my offerings. And I say my prayers up there. And time to time I'll go around the other side of the Sandias and go up to the top, the Sandia Peak, and that's where, and like Dara was saying, that there's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of spiritual energy up there, and I think that we all need that prayer, So one of the other things, just being in the military and being a musician is I got used to traveling a lot, and so when I retired and slowing down, it kind of, that's one of the things that I missed. So I brought that back in, I just like to plan trips, go somewhere, just jump in the car. And even if it's for a day trip or whatever, I'll go. My son lives in Flagstaff and I love Flagstaff, so there are times where I'll just go up and just for a day or two, just to go hang out up there, and go walk up in there in the trails up there that are close to town, have a and to help him ground too, because he's in school. So he's under a lot of stress. So we'll go up and we'll have a catch. I'll bring the gloves, and because that's something he misses too. It's something from his childhood that can help him ground himself. Just trying to draw from things that I became comfortable with as I grew up. I think is important for me, and important for a lot of people, it just keeps them happy, keeps them grounded. So thanks.
5 very excellent stories across the different services and time. You have opportunity to throw up a panel the questions, Steve. And while he's doing that, if you have any thoughts or comments, please share them with us right now. Raise your hand or something, and you can ask the panelists a question or thought that you might have. Thank you. Good, Steve. Question 2, as a Native veteran, was this session beneficial? Another multiple choice, Steve. God. Let's see.
You can feel the pressure building, Ray.
Geez, I'm caught between A and D. One of the unifying themes that I heard was the space. Well, Teresa has a comment. Teresa Ballinger. Yeah, well, this has been so good. Teresa, want to unmute and comment? Teresa? Maybe she's not able to.
I think she hopped off before. That's why she put
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to wish to say that one of the things that keeps coming up was the connection to our world. Sometimes we praise it just by saying our connection to our surroundings or Mother Earth, but it's really about our connection to our world and universe. And I'm blessed to hear stories about that. In Navajo Che, we have songs about receiving blessings from our mountains. And one phrase that came to mind is "Tsistanajon," which means the mountains are glorious, beautiful. There's a phrase that comes to my mind. "Tsistanajon," yeah, like that. But we have a comment from from Tiffany. Tiffany, want to unmute and speak with us here?
her microphone is out, so she
Oh,
put it.
mic is out. Yeah, I saw that after I put my glasses on and do that. So, so that's one of the things that one of the thoughts that I wanted to share as we head into our closing, into our a few minutes we have remaining. Allison, you have the opportunity here to give us some feedback, some thoughts that you might want to share with us.
So I remember to unmute. Thank you. Yeah. Miigwech. It's really important to hear these stories. A lot of you shared your experiences, make me think of my own father's service, and I appreciate it, the service that you do and what your families have done, because even though it's an individual signing up on the paper, it's really the family. And each of you have shared from your parents and your grandparents and now your partners in life and your children, the impact the family has made. So the value that I see through all of your stories is the importance of family and ceremony. And that's key to who we are. That's our identity as Native people. And we need to keep that going forward, that we always have to be grounded to our culture. And it's that commonality, family, ceremony. So I thank you for that.
Steve has the polling results ready too. Steve?
Yes, can we see those? I'm
Nope.
sharing them.
I can't.
Anybody else see those? No. I wonder what I'm doing wrong.
Read them and put them in chat, buddy.
Yeah.
Or put the link up again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have about 70% saying yes, so that they did a lot, that they did find the session beneficial. About 20 said somewhat. And nobody said no, and 10% said not sure. Not sure. It says I'm sharing these results, so I don't know if I'm just not doing that right. But let me try it again.
And you have another polling question too.
I
right?
do. I have one more.
Good.
Let me see if
There it is. We see the results.
there. You see those results there? Are those up now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's strange. The first time it wouldn't go.
you must have a time delay.
So those are the results there. We had about half of you participating.
Mhm.
So I'm going to take those down, and then we've got one more question that I'll put out there. Here it
Belinda,
comes.
yeah, Belinda makes a comment. That she's not sure because she's not a veteran, but there was not a non-applicable option. No, I think
Oh, yeah.
Belinda, we answered these questions from where we're at. We kind of said veteran, but it includes all of us that are here for this session. So thank you for your comment. Need to clarify that. Feel free to answer, please. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, can you see the next polling question? Is that up?
No, not yet.
Well, let's try and relaunch that.
It's not a complicated multiple choice, I hope. There's only 3 responses.
No,
The
but-
last one was really tough.
Are the participants seeing the polling questions?
The question 3, as
Yeah,
a native,
question
as a
2 of
native
3.
veteran, have you learned about support available to veterans? It is posted on my screen.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it up on mine as well. So a few of you that are remaining with us are chiming in. So
Mhm.
can give a few more minutes. Feel free to respond to that question and it really is, this question, as Belinda said earlier, is really targeting our native veteran and veteran attendees. So
Mhm.
next time, I think I'll just put an NA or non-applicable in there
Yeah,
based on Belinda's feedback. That's a good point.
Yeah. Good.
So yes, so let's see. The question, as you know, is as a native veteran or veteran, have you learned more about support available? And that's something that I think we want to make sure that if you would like some resources, that we do have some resources available. And I think we'll try and in session 3 in January, we'll try and really add some of those to a slide so that you all can have access. And it's another opportunity to share resources that some of you as native veterans or veterans may have to share with your peers and colleagues and those on the call. So
right. So with that, any last comments and five words or less, panelists? So here's the results of the survey. Have you learned more about support available for veterans? Yes, very much, 18%. B, very, yes, sufficient. Or some of the responses. C, yes, but need more. D, no, nobody answered no. So thank you for your responses. Any last word from anybody before we go into our closing blessing? Seeing none, hearing anything, not hearing anything, I want to really extend my appreciation to all of you that joined us today, Steve and Allison, for doing a great job at helping us get together. I really appreciate that. You put a lot of time and effort into this. And our 5 panelists, so Robert and Tanabat, Dara, Jeff and Dave, fantastic people. I've gotten to know you, most of you, well. Love you and care for you each much. Share that with you. Okay. And I know we will see each other soon. I might be in Albuquerque tomorrow, Dave. But take care of yourselves. There was one comment made by one of our attendees, Carolyn. She said, as a child of a veteran, it strikes her at how many of you, our panelists, describe sharing, being in the nature, in the forest, mountains as part of your balance and reconnecting. Her father also loved going into the mountains and forests. And he would take Carolyn with him, and teach her to be still. It's a beautiful story, Carolyn. Thank you. So with that, everyone, take care of yourselves and we'll see you next time. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, panelists. Yes, we'll broadcast again, session 3, January 5th, same time, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central.
Mhm.
Until then, please stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay connected. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.